where do you see the next 5 years? I mean, as you heard from Steve, he had his intrepidations with regard to Dodd-Frank. Then he's very bullish on the mayor, as opposed to some of the other people who I taped some shows this week. So where do you see the market? I mean, because it's really been booming. Everything's positive. There are more cranes when you walk around the city than you've seen in years. As Scott said, when his friend, the market is there. What's the opportunities going forward? Anyone just want to throw it up there?
Look, my view is the ritz and the glamour of a holiday party can tell a lot. So one litmus test is, look at the holiday parties that you're going to this year and compare that with the best, most ostentatious holiday parties that you've been to. And it might start to look a lot like those holiday parties in '07 that we all have fond memories of. I think over the next 5 years, I'm bullish about what the next 5 years bring, but I think somewhere in that period there is going to be a couple of bumps along the road. Certainly in my business, the hotel business, we're seeing a tremendous amount of supply coming into the city. More supply of new hotel rooms than there's been in the last 20 years on a one-year basis.
And that doesn't include Airbnb.
That's right. Correct. Although, hopefully that's getting beaten down. Joe?
Yeah, I'm also bullish over the next 5 years, and like Steve, I'm optimistic about what the mayor is going to do. I think that if you look at some of the appointments that he's made, there's real estate in there. He realizes that it's important as the lifeblood of the city. So I'm very, very optimistic.
I look at it from a more macro perspective. If you look at the amount of household creation in this country in the next 20 years, the numbers are staggering. And where do people want to live? There are probably 4 cities that most people graduating college would even consider at this point, unless they have hometown ties. And New York is definitely number 1.
They don't want to move to Cleveland.
I didn't say Cleveland wasn't one of the 4. What I'm saying is that the people who, when people graduate from college and you ask them what cities do you want to live in, they probably will say San Francisco, Boston,
Wait
New
a
York.
second. I got 2 guys over here who are basically relocations over there. Mr. O'Biden, Mr. McMillan.
Exactly my point. So and then you look at people internationally and you ask them, if you wanted to leave your country, what country would you like to go to? And the answer is invariably going to be the United States, or maybe 1 or 2 other countries. So as long as the United States maintains its position, which there's no reason to think it won't, I think that the future of this country, and thus by narrowing it down to where in the country people want to go, New York is the place, as long as we don't gum it up with some poor policy decision making, which I hope won't happen.
So 2 cities we're in San Francisco as well, so I think Jason is right.
I realize.
I have an unbridled sense of optimism over the next 5 years, for all the reasons Steve said and all the other panelists have said. And also, this city's foundation is not based anymore. We're not a one-horse town. This was a finance town for 20 years, and as that market went, so went the real estate market. And there's so many other exciting things going on. We're the number 1 tourist city in the world, and the tech businesses and so forth. So I think the one sort of qualification I put in is the concern about what's going to happen with city government. But I think you sort of run as an idealist and you govern as a pragmatist. And I think De Blasio knows that safety in the city is the Rosetta Stone of the health of the city. And he's smart enough to know that he needs to keep the city at an incredibly low crime rate, and I believe they will. And therefore, I think that is sort of the underpinning of our future for the next 5 years.
Ms. Farrell?
I'd say, I think with the demographic change, people wanting to be in cities, that that's going to continue, and I think you're going to see a lot more. I think the market has gotten very competitive in terms of availability of financing, and you're going to see even more of that going forward. At the same time, I think, from an interest rate perspective, they are very low. The question is, how long will they stay low? What's going to happen with inflation?
Very good point. A lot of people are worried about that.
How long will they stay low? I have no idea. But,
Shouldn't you know?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
If I knew that, I would not be on this. No. But I would say, for me anyway, I look at it and say it's a good time to lock in long-term rates, in terms of,
By the way, that's a good reason to own real estate in your portfolio while you're doing deals, so that it is a hedge. Real estate in general is a hedge against inflation, especially if you own a hotel, for example. So if you can possibly keep a diverse portfolio while you're developing, that way if interest rates go up, at least you're at least on one part of your life or holdings, you may be benefiting actually. So inflation could work both ways if you're in the real estate business long term.
And the guy who puts out the money?
Having grown up on 23rd Street and lived here my whole life, we are becoming a victim of our own success. I will say I start looking out at decades and getting concerned about infrastructure capacity. We have a housing crisis with no clear answer. So I think I'm very optimistic, and for that reason, I think there needs to be a lot more work done to figure out how the city can accommodate the
All the
population
people.
growth we're talking about. It's a major issue.
Okay.